Anissa.
I'm Sophie Hannah.
And I'm Luanda Yasmin. Welcome to the 26th episode of Ethnically Speaking, the show where we discuss everything affecting the UK's highly melanated communities, from current affairs to pop culture and everything in between. We always promise to keep it 100% real. And this week we are talking about the coronavirus vaccine. We are talking about giving feedback to bad bedroom partners, twerking in restaurants, and having an emotional support animal. So Anissa, start us off, please.
Okay, so after a weird year, there is finally light at the end of the 2020 tunnel. MHRA, the UK's medicine regulator, has approved the Pfizer BioNTech coronavirus vaccine after it demonstrated up to 95% protection against COVID-19. But the government is concerned with low uptake and has already unveiled plans to enlist the help of celebrities and public figures to help encourage people to get vaccinated. Will you be queuing at first opportunity to get the vaccine, or do you have reservations? And do you think the government's campaign will help people who are on the fence about getting vaccinated?
Let me take this one, ladies. Now, will I be queuing? Queuing? Probably not. I'm not at the top of the list of the people who are going to get it in the first batch anyway. I don't meet the age requirement. I don't meet the health requirement. So for me, I doubt I'm going to be queuing. I definitely have some reservations about long-term effects, but nothing that would actually stop me from taking the vaccine. I believe that the government definitely wants to find a cure. Let me say that tentatively. A cure for the pandemic. And I don't think that they're going to put people's lives in danger. Now, the only reason why I say that is not because I think they care about us, but it's affected the economy so badly. They want to get it up and running. So I think whatever they can do to do that in the safest way possible, I think that they're going to do that. And I think, therefore, for me, the vaccine is something that I believe can be trusted, because they're going to have to give it to frontline workers. If NHS staff start falling down dead from what's in the vaccine,
dead. Country's over. The
we're
country's
all
finished.
Like, it doesn't make sense for them to release something that isn't going to actually meet the tests, the vigorous testing system that they've put it through. So that's my opinion. Oh, in terms of the celebrities, I think that, to be honest, I think the controversy's gone too far. I think it's so far out there. I don't know if they can reel it back. It's like when you see those Trump supporters just saying a madness. Like, once it's gone full hog, I just think it's only people who are really going to think about it who are going to take it. I don't think enlisting celebrities is going to do anything.
I actually thought the opposite, because I saw that there was a couple of politicians that have already volunteered to take the vaccination live on television. Boris Johnson and Barack Obama being two of those politicians. And I think that Boris Johnson said that he will take Boris and Barack are open to taking the vaccination on television at the moment. And I think it would be a really good idea if they actually follow through with it. I think in terms of celebrities, what they said, I was reading an article and they said they're going to enlist sensible celebrities. And then my mind immediately went to Marcus Rashford, because all we've done during 2020 is sing his praises, and rightfully so. And then literally a sentence later, the article was like, footballer Marcus Rashford, who has been praised for his charity work, is being considered for the campaign. And I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. So celebrities like that, I actually do think will positively influence people who might not think it's safe. The thing that I'm happiest about is that it's not going to be mandatory. Boris said that, we're not going to do that in the UK, at least. We are going to encourage people to take the vaccination, but we're not going to force people to take the vaccination, which I think is fantastic, because freedom of choice, you guys already know how I feel about that. But I actually think because I read that for this to be effective, I read that 60 to 70% of people need to volunteer to take it. So I think if not enough people do it voluntarily, the incentives are going to start to become a little bit more intense, because I think during this whole pandemic, what we've experienced at least is being in this together. So we all know it's not like everyone else is outside having fun and I, just have to stay locked inside my bedroom. Like, no, everyone is on lockdown. The nation's on lockdown. At one point, the whole world was. So I think something that's really kept people going is knowing that it's not just happening to them. Like, everyone is going through it together. But I think post this vaccine, if they want to keep encouraging people, there might be a difference between the people who can and the people who can't. And they might just keep making things more privileged for the people who have been vaccinated until people who haven't been are so fed up that they just give in and they take it. So I'm just hoping that 70% of people do it willy-nilly and we don't have to deal with that, because that's what the future looks like, I think.
Lorenzo, but would you take it?
No.
Oh, okay. Because you were talking about the 60-70%, and I'm like,
yeah,
why are you saying that you hope
girl.
that the 60 to 70 take it? Because you don't want to be in the 30. You want to be in the 30% that doesn't take it.
Correct.
I knew as soon as she said that, that's what she meant.
Because I know, so like, you guys is going to make it really hard for me. Like, I will take it if it gets I will take it if it gets really, really bad. Like, if I want to do something that I can't do without the vaccination, I'm like, damn it, this is the final straw and I'll take the vaccine. But
why would you not take it?
It's just not for me. I'm just good without. I'm okay. I'm just good without. I just don't.
Girl, what's a reason? Give a reason.
I just don't want to. Is that okay?
I'm sorry, Sophie. I have to agree with the Amanda sentiment 100%. It's not for me, so I won't be getting it. And that's just personally for me.
What's the reason behind it? Like, is it medical? Is it environmental? Like, that's what I'm asking. Like, whether you want to take it or not, I don't have an issue. But I'm like, what's you guys' reasons behind it?
I think mine is built on an accumulation of different reasons, but none of them being stronger than other, and none of them being strong whatsoever. So the first one is, it's just like, it's been kind of developed very quickly. If I were to get it, and it's very, if I were to get it, like, everyone would have to get it first before me, and then it'd have to be a long period of time for me to see, are there any side effects? Yes, no, maybe so. The second reason is, I'm not like a vaccine person. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but like, apart from the vaccines I had to get when I was a small child, I've never had any more either. Like, you know, when you're a teen, a young girl, they offer you all the other ones in secondary school, and I've just kind of been like, no, thank you, I'm good. So it's kind of like, I'm good so far. I really don't need to go any further. And if everybody else gets it, then I won't need to get it. That was like the process of elimination in my mind. So that's why I won't be getting it.
Okay, so guys, this is actually very interesting, because I wasn't sure if you would both be saying that you wouldn't take the vaccine, but I kind of understand it. But I guess for me, like, would you have felt more secure if it went, Anissa I'm speaking to specifically, if it went through the long process? Because I agree, they have rushed it through, but it's only because we're in a global pandemic. Like, generally when they did it for like the measles or rubella or whatever, they took time in doing it because most of the world wasn't affected by it. So that's why they have stepped up the processes. But it can take 10 years to get a vaccine through the processes. Are you saying that you would have preferred for them to have taken 10 years and then for us to stay in some sort of lockdown for the foreseeable future in order for you to feel safe?
I think what I'm saying is, for people who really want this vaccine and need it, then I completely understand why it's being rushed. For me personally, even 10 years is not enough. I'm only speaking for me, solid person. I need at least a good 100 years on it. And then I can see what the long-term effects are. I want to see, does it do anything along the generations? I can't, like, and this is slightly off topic, but this is also why I'm not a big support of certain contraceptions. They haven't been out long enough for me to know what the extreme long-term effects are going to be. So I just try to dabble away from things that haven't been around long enough. But if anybody wants to do it, then I think you should do it. If you feel comfortable with it, 100%. And to a point that you made earlier, Sophie, obviously they're going to make sure the vaccine that comes out is going to be safe, because they don't want to put more people at harm. They want to rescue their economy. So they're going to try to put out the safest thing possible. So if you feel safe and happy in doing that, then that's what I think people should do. Personally, for me, it just is not safe enough. And that's all.
Okay.
I mean, I like that they're giving it to the frontline workers and the elderly and stuff. I'm not that important. I'm also not that vulnerable. So I'm happy I'm happy for everyone who needs it to go first. Happy to also not take it at all. I guess it's not really the fact that it came around so fast, because I think as soon as this was a big mess, people were working on it straight away. Like, as soon as we went into the first lockdown, they were talking about vaccinations and where are we on the vaccination and the anti COVID-19, how are we, you know what I mean? So I don't feel pressed that it was rushed, because I think like science moves a lot faster now than it did when we were trying to do something about measles. So yeah, I just don't want to just don't want it. I
So-
think for me, go on.
I was going to ask Sophie if she was,
Mhm.
if you were going to get it.
For me, like I said, like I don't really have, my reservations aren't major enough for me not to take it if it's offered to me and they say that I should. Like I don't have an issue. Like I said, I'm not going to be in any of the frontline services that need it. So I think there was like, at the moment, they outlined like a 9-step program for people who would need it, and I'm not in any of the 9 categories. So I'm like, I'll think about it when it comes around. But like I said, my sister's a nurse, so she's probably going to be upfront to take it. I have elderly family members, and I think for the majority of people who I've heard say they're not taking it, they're people who haven't seen the effects of COVID maybe on their immediate family. Because I know people who have had like grandparents die, parents die. I know a guy who COVID killed his mother and his father had already died, and now he's an orphan. So for people like that, when you see something up close and personal, then it can make it more real. Because I was even talking to a family member about my father-in-law. He passed away this year of cancer. And I was speaking to a family member, and I was like, if they had like a vaccine for that type of cancer, which can run through the family, would you take it? And she was like, in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, even if they were and so I think it depends sometimes on your proximity to something, if that makes sense. But I think whoever wants to take it, whoever doesn't. But I agree with Lawanda in that I definitely think they're trying to shop this, it's not mandatory line, but if enough people don't take it, 100% I think they'll be coming, if you want to leave the country, you need to take it, because
and that's when I'll take
we
it.
can't risk you infecting other people. Therefore, if you haven't had it, you don't have to, but you can't travel. So I think it's going to come a mess. And I think one of my biggest issues has been, like I've said on the show, I'm a Christian. It's these Christian fanatics that are out there talking madness. I'm telling you, they are talking about it's Lucifer because it's called Luciphase, and it's this, and it might be this, and it's going to be the coming of all this mad stuff. I'm like, guys, like, come on, we have a tough enough time already. Like, stop making us seem like the crazies.
I feel like that's like that with a lot of extremist groups, though, and not to say like, but I'm even called soccer mums extremist groups. You know, people go on the mumsnet.com and they just like go crazy. But you know what I mean? Like anywhere where there is conspiracy lives, there's a group, then it's dangerous. But moving on to the second part of my question, do you think the government's campaign then is going to help people that are on the fence? Because personally, for me, as someone who's on the fence but leaning to more to one side of the garden, I'm not sure if watching a celebrity get it done live, or even Barack Obama, who I love so much, I don't think watching him get it on TV would help persuade me. Like personally, for me, it wouldn't. It's almost kind of like, I kind of think I understand the idea, but for me, it's kind of like turning it into like an Instagram ad. And I don't know how to make that make sense. But do you know when you see like the celebrities now doing Instagram ads about the plastic surgery they got? And I'm just like, whoa. We were happy when you were selling us diet teas, not things that are going to come into our bodies. It's way too much. And I feel like that's where we're going with the celebrities and public figures, even though it be serious people. This is like stuff that's going into our body. I don't know if I need the influence of someone powerful to push me there, you know? Do you know what I mean?
I do, but I still think it will help, because like, do you guys not remember when for the whole of Taylor Swift's career she didn't talk about politics, and everyone was like, she's probably a conservative, that's why she's not talking about it. And then she started speaking about politics, and the first thing that she was vocal about was being, you know, anti-Trump a few years ago. And then as soon, like the very next day after she tweeted about politics or whatever, I think it was something crazy, like thousands and thousands of young people in America then registered to vote for the election, who otherwise just kind of, I guess, weren't thinking about it. So like, celebrities, they might not have influence over you personally, but they have such strong influence in general. And there are so many people, when they idolize someone and someone tells you that this is a good thing, this is okay, they're just going to listen, and they're not going to ask any questions. Some people,
but would you want them to have that kind of influence though?
They already
just like
have
in
it.
general.
I think for people like Obama and Boris, and I think George W. Bush said he'll take it online as well, I think people who believe in the vaccine. So I think these are people who genuinely believe that it's going to be a help. Like, I don't know about Boris, I don't know about Bush, but I trust that Obama is trying to say, look, I'm trying to talk specifically to the Black community, because there is such a distrust there with Black people, Black community, especially in America, because of vaccines. And where you see what happened in the Tuskegee project or study, where they withheld penicillin from Black men who had syphilis so they could see what the results would be if with someone having syphilis for a long time, or testing out contraception on Black women, or making Black women infertile against their wishes. Like, all these things have fed into such major distrust. I can understand why Obama's saying it and doing it, because again, we're in a climate where ethnic minorities are more likely to die from COVID because of poor living standards or being in poverty or all these other things. So I think if you support that celebrity, it will make a difference. If you don't, then it won't. It's like voting. Like, people who like Taylor Swift might go out and vote, but then if Taylor Swift was a Republican and she was pro-Trump, then a lot of her supporters could have been on the bandwagon with her and then been promoting controversy, all these theories as well. So I think it really depends on if you're for that celebrity or not.
Yeah. I'm thinking, I heard you. That's just like, yeah, it was a lot to think about.
Mm-hmm.
There was definitely a lot to think about. Yeah. Okay, so getting the vaccine is your choice. Moving on from the vaccine, I want to talk to you about something that I saw on Twitter. So after a night of passion, one man took to Twitter to share an exit survey that he received from a woman he had just slept with. Now, the survey was asking him to rate her looks and also her performance in the bedroom. What do you guys think makes someone bad in bed? And if you like someone and they're bad in bed, do you give them feedback and try to work on it, or do you bounce? And are exit sex surveys the key to future happiness in the bedroom?
Oh my gosh, I love this story so much. I found this hilarious. I also liked as well, the girl responded to the viral tweet because I thought it was funny, but obviously the guy making the tweet, he was trying to shame her because he was like, oh, I can't believe I slept with a psychopath. And the fact that she responded to the tweet and wasn't trying to hide herself or something, like, I really like that. I think I talk about this a lot, and it's probably not going to be the last time that I speak about it, but from a heterosexual perspective, I think it's so often that sex is seen as something that a man gets from a woman, and it's seen as something that a woman gives to a man, and a lot of the time it's not seen as like shared pleasure, you know? And I think that can make for bad sexual experiences from people who have internalized that. So there was this psychologist called Donna Dawson, I hope I'm saying her name right, who said that everyone should be aiming for like an equal give and take scenario, which I of course agree with. And she also said that obviously practice makes perfect, which is why, like, in terms of if someone's bad, I wouldn't, like, would you say kick them to the curb or something? Like, I wouldn't bounce. Yeah, I wouldn't bounce. Because I have a friend who is in love with someone who was a virgin before they were with them, and they're having like, they obviously had to have like a period of like understanding each other and communicating and all of that stuff, but they're now having like fantastic adventurous sex. So so a lot of the time it might not be that someone's bad, it might just be that they're inexperienced.
And I think you hit the nail on the head for me, Luanda, because I think it's such a loaded question to be like, oh, if someone's bad in bed, because I honestly feel like sex is something that you can get better at with practice, with time, like with effort, with reading, listen to a podcast, listen to your partner.
Communication.
Exactly. Like, I just feel like when we say, oh, that person was bad in bed, we make it seem like you're born good at sex or you're not born good at sex.
And that's a ready-made package.
Exactly. It's just a lie. Like, everyone was a virgin. I can say that hand on heart. Everybody was a virgin. So if that's the case, no man started out being fantastic in bed and staying up for like 5 hours or whatever. It doesn't happen. So I think that there should definitely be, maybe not an exit survey. That girl took it to the nth degree, but I love her balls for it. But there should be this kind of feedback that you should be having with your partner. Otherwise, the sex isn't going to get any better. Like, if you're not talking about it, there needs to be some sort of feedback session about it. But just be very careful, I think, how you have that with men. Because from my experience, men don't take it very well when you talk about things in the bedroom and how you don't think that they were not good or they didn't perform. Because I think for men, their sexual prowess and their ability in the bedroom, at least in society, has been very much linked to what they're like as a man, or you're more of a man. Like, you're more of a man. And I think it really knocks men's confidence when that happens. I'm thinking about whether I should give you guys a personal story.
I can see it in your eyes.
I mean, Sophie, you're always pushing Luanda to share, Sophie. So this is your opportunity to share if you really wanted to. You love to push Luanda to share. If you feel like you want to share, Sophie.
I'm always here for Luanda. Like, she's so good to me. I'm telling you, she's so good
Sophie, if you want to share, you have the space
to.
to.
So let me give you
It's
an
a safe
example.
space.
So
You have the floor.
there was a guy once who I knew who made I don't
I'm listening.
No,
It's my listening face.
You can.
I can't. This was a guy who made comments about what a woman could achieve in the bedroom just because they never saw it happen. So, for example, like, if a woman isn't having an orgasm, he was the sort of man who'd been like, I think orgasms is linked to intelligence. So if you can't have one, it means you're not very intelligent. Like, yeah,
Oh my
that
gosh.
sort of thing. And
That
that's
coming
what I'm
from
sort of
him. He's the one talking about intelligence. That's so interesting.
So my thing is, I think there are men out there who literally cannot take being not reprimanded, but talked about in the bedroom. So you have to first of all make sure whether it's a decent guy that you're dating.
I think I'll agree with you. I think you guys both said it nicely about the fragility of men. You know, I always say that men are very sensitive, so you have to be very, very careful and be like kids' gloves around them. But I think the idea of someone being bad in bed, as well as experience, I think it's also subjective. Like, that's what I literally think. I think something that works for some people doesn't work for others. And when you, I guess, have a new partner, it's about learning each other. So in the beginning, maybe it might not be good because you don't know each other. So I think being bad in bed is subjective. I don't know if there needs to be like, I appreciate her, you know, her process and methodology with the survey, but I don't know if it has to be like so formal. I don't know if you know what I mean. Like, it's a bit strange that it's that formal. But I am with you guys in regards to making things better. Communication is definitely key. Like, talking about things are always a win. I'm not sure if exit sex surveys are the future to success in the bedroom. I just think it's just communication. Like, for me, the first word is communication. Just talk about it.
Yeah, but I'm not mad at the exit survey, because here's the thing though, like they had a short like romantic fling, and she knew that she wasn't going to see him again. So she was just interested to have some feedback, and even said on the survey, you don't have to put your name, you can be completely honest. I'm not going to feel like you're objectifying me. I just want answers to these questions. And I think that's fine, because I think when, like, as we're talking about, you know, people being sensitive, like, obviously everyone's going to feel some type of way if the person that you're having sex with is important to you. But if like a casual relationship has ended and you just want to know, was I the fellatio queen or not, then tick the box, bro. Why are you putting on Twitter? Send her back.
But do you think she could have asked in the moment? Instead of sending an actual survey. Not like in the actual moment, I mean after. That's what I mean. Instead of sending an actual survey. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, I'm here for the surveys because I used to do surveys prior. I used to do.
I don't understand you, Magda. You've lost me. Surveys prior.
She means she had like a focus group. Was it like
focus?
Like
is that sort of?
I used to do like quizzes.
You used to do quizzes. You used to do quizzes.
What was some of the?
Or you'd give people quizzes.
What were some of the questions on the quiz?
I'm confused. Is she doing the quizzes or is she giving people the quizzes?
I'm giving the quizzes before I started dating someone to see if I'm wasting my time. So you know, because I think when you're in the like the romance period and you're on the date, it's like being in a job interview. You're never going to show your bad side, right? So I'm thinking like everything can seem good until it's not. So I just want to know. I just like having big conversations. I like answering the big questions. So you know, I would just like slap a little survey on the table. And just be like, answer these questions. I'm interested. So, yeah.
What were some of the questions? Stop trying to do I want to know.
I haven't done this in a really long time, by the way. But the last time I did it, I asked, are you a feminist? If yes, what type of feminist are you? Because most people can just say yes, but they don't understand. If you can't say like what branch of feminism you are, you probably don't understand feminism. You're probably just lying to me. How do you feel about the arts? Will you support the creative arts? I can't remember what else I asked. It's things that are important to me. You guys know the general stuff, just to see where they tick. Because sometimes people would say like, okay, I don't have any interest in the creative arts, but if you were in a play, I'd come and watch it, and I'd be like, okay, that is good enough for me.
But I feel like, Luanda, you can get all these answers through just a normal conversation. I don't know if I'm literally missing the link, but honestly, if I was on a date with a man and he said, "Hey girl, here's the survey. Do you need a pen?" and I I need you to fill this out, I'd just be like, "What is this?" And I would slide it back and be like, "Can you just ask me the questions?" And I know like people do like give their representative when you first meet them, but I feel like, maybe I'm just speaking for me, I'm such a direct person. Just ask me what you need to ask me directly and I'll say it. The survey is just crazy. Like, what are you going to do? Go home and tally up the statistics. Then at the end of the year, give me a Spotify wrapped up of like what I did well in the bedroom, what movie I liked, you didn't like. Like, it's too much. It's not for me.
What I want to know, have you guys seen those sex surveys that you can do like in a couple though, where you can actually talk about what it is that you both like? So I read this article and it was about this couple, and this woman was saying they basically had sex in the same position for a few years. They just had like a very same stayed process. So she was like, they would start in one position, move to another, and it would always be the same. So they filled in this sex survey individually, and it talks about what you would both like. So it gives you lots and lots of options of like, would you like bondage? Would you like being tied up? Would you like a golden shower? Would you like all these different things? And then whatever you said yes to and you've matched with, then it will send the answers to your partner. Cute. What's really good about it is that it doesn't send the things that you want to do, but your partner didn't. So you don't have to be like grossed out if they say, and I want you to like wear a nappy and pee in it. And that would really turn me on. Like, you probably don't want to know that. But I thought that was a really good way to use a sex survey in order to bring people together, rather than it being something that you grade the other person against, like they're kind of inferior. Rather like, actually, how can we both do this and find enjoyment?
I like that, Sophie. I like the idea of this. Yes.
I think also because I think I read the same article as you, Sophie, and those people, they were in a marriage. So it's like, we're talking about communication and blah, 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 but it can change over time, the more that you know someone and things like that. And we're talking about sensitivity, but your husband, your wife, like your life partner is saying, this is a bit boring for me. Like, so I think it's a really good idea because both of them can talk about things that they would want to try, and like Sophie said, it just shows you your matches and then you go from there. The woman even said like that they ended up falling back into their regular routine, but they feel a lot less mundane with it because they know that when they're ready, they just bust out the survey and they try a new thing again, because when they tried the new things, she said it was better than the premarital sex when they were young and dating and stuff like that. So I think it just opens up so many doors. I'm here for the surveys. I'm here for the quizzes.
Yeah. And I think I'm just here for like sex with like intimacy and knowing somebody. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that there's by knowing the person, and whether that's in marriage or not, like, I think that's how sex should be. Like, if you want to have one night stands, do you? But there is something, for me, a different level of intimacy that you get by being with somebody and you're knowing them and knowing their body, because no two bodies are the same. So again, when we're talking about this idea of someone being good in bed or bad in bed, I feel like the statistics are always going to be very high for you finding someone who isn't good in bed, because what are the odds of finding someone who in an instant knows exactly what you need, exactly what you like, exactly knows what works for your body? So being with someone who can kind of work with that and spend the time to discover you, then I really think that's the best of both worlds, in my opinion.
And just to add, I thought it was really cheeky that he put that on Twitter. I don't know why, but I found it cheeky.
He called
and weird.
her a psychopath. I'm thinking, how do I make this so much
put her
friend?
name.
He put
her. But he put her name up there as well and everything. I just thought it was weird. Like, that to me was just weird.
Or at least, because we are of the generation where something interesting happens, we put it on the internet, fine. But we at least have the decency to first get a little red mark and remove people's personal details. Like, blur out the photos, blur out the DP photos if you're putting up screen text and stuff like that, and just scribble out the name. Simple.
It was cheeky. I wasn't here for it.
Well, she got him back, I feel.
I think she did, and good for you, Lily.
Was it not Helen?
We are on your
I thought
team.
it was Emily.
No, it was Lily. Definitely.
No, guys, I saw Emily. I don't know what you're on about.
Guys, we are pulling out random Brit
No,
names.
I saw Emily. I don't know what you're on about.
Oh my days. Look, guys, we have been discussing some very hot topics in the first half of the show, so I'm going to give us a second to cool down, and while you're doing that, don't forget to press that like button, press that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. So we've been talking about controversial issues today. We talked about the vaccine and whether we had any reservations to taking it. We then talked about sex exit surveys and whether we should give them to our partners in order to prove our love lies in the bedroom. And I'm going to keep on that controversial stream. I'm talking about a black restaurant owner who claims to support the black community but recently banned guests from twerking in his restaurant. Now, the gentleman in question interrupted some dinner guests with a very fiery speech saying, if you want to do it, get the F out of my restaurant because I did this for our people. I did this for our culture. I want to know, is twerking intrinsic to black culture? Is frowning on twerking actually frowning on our culture? Or are there some places that you just shouldn't twerk?
Okay, so I will start by saying I don't think twerking is intrinsic to black culture. I do think it's synonymous with hip hop culture, and hip hop culture is a part of black culture, but it's only a very small part of black culture. It's not our entirety. So I wouldn't say it's like it's in us, for example. It's not intrinsic. I don't think frowning on twerking, because this is the thing, like, twerking isn't mandatory, so that's like the only thought in my mind. So if somebody doesn't like twerking, I think that's their option to do that, and it's also their prerogative to do that. I do think there is a time and a place to twerk. I am of that belief. I really am. Now, as somebody who likes to shake their ass, and I say it all the time, and I've told you about how I've shaked my ass for less anywhere, honestly. However, I do know that there is a time and a place. And so yes, so I know there's a time and a place. Yes, I'm going to stop myself right there before I go on a tangent. Go ahead.
I actually do think it is a part of black culture, twerking, but the difference is that it stems from African culture, and the twerking that we see in mainstream hip hop culture today is a lot more sexualized than what it originally was. It's literally just a dance, but obviously today it's now a little bit more provocative, but it is something that stemmed from African culture before it is in our mainstream 2020 culture like it is now. And now, like, obviously everyone's doing it. I think I heard the whole speech from that restaurant owner, and I thought it was misogynistic as hell. So I wholeheartedly disapprove. I think he also needs to kind of be mindful of the environment that he's creating, because I've worked in a place where we were serving food and we were serving alcohol and we had a DJ, and when people would get up to dance, we would be celebrating that, because that's kind of, you know, it's showing us that our customers are having a good time and that we've created that environment. But on the flip side, I was reading that the women were doing this on the booths, and I just think that's mad disrespectful.
And on the tables.
I didn't hear that part. Okay, but so that is like mad disrespectful, obviously, to the furniture and to the environment. And obviously, he actually told them to stop more than once. Before that big speech, he was coming over to the table. He came over to the table like at least twice to say to them, guys, please, let's can we not? You know what I mean? So I think for him, he could have literally just come over there and been like, guys, this is the third time I'm speaking to you. I feel mad disrespected. I'm going to actually ask you to just pay your check and leave because you're not listening. But instead, he wanted to stop the music and give some BS speech about how he can't expect men to respect women if women don't respect themselves. And I'm like, sir, what did you think spirits plus a Megan Thee Stallion soundtrack was going to equate to. So like all that respectability politics BS, like it's not for me. I don't think that he needed to go on a whole misogynistic rant to prove his point. He should have just asked them to pay the check and leave.
Yeah, to be honest, I never really saw it as misogynistic or misogynoir, but yeah, I think you're definitely right. I definitely think it was, but I don't think it was in the stereotypical sense. I think I saw much more the respectability politics of it in regards to him trying to say there's a certain way that he thinks black people should act within his restaurant, a certain way that he thinks is acceptable. And I think that's the part that I really struggled with in what he's saying, because I think that respectability politics can be rife within the black community sometimes. Like I have been a partaker of it as well, you know, like you're seeing someone, you're like, man, they're just letting down the side.
Literally. That whole mentality, like people need to grow out of that.
Yeah. Like it all comes into it where we feel like there's certain behaviors that we as black people shouldn't be partaking in. And I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but I'm going to come back around, so bear with me, ladies. But when I watched I May Destroy You on TV with Michaela Coel, like I had a real problem with how messy she was. I'm like, she is one hella messy black woman, like her character. And it made me feel really uncomfortable because I'm just like, you can't be this messy. And I had to go and sit and think about it. I'm just thinking, well, I'm thinking like as a black woman, like as our representation, with all the things that people already throw at us, like I don't feel like I can afford to be that messy in life as her character was. And my point is she's trying to show, well, we can be messy and we can be this and we can be that. And you have to really start to check yourself, like this guy in the restaurant is like, where do these thoughts come from that as black people it's beneath us to twerk, or whining is beneath us, or being a rapper and having low trousers and wearing sliders and wearing a do-rag, that's beneath certain of us. And if we want to go higher up the socio-economic scale, or we want to get into certain circles, we've got to leave that sort of lower class black behavior behind. So I think that he really needs to check himself in terms of that. But I do think that there is a time and place to twerk. And I'm not saying twerk everywhere, because I wouldn't twerk in church. I can't even twerk. I'm very sad about it, like I would like to. So let's just break the myth that not every black person can dance, not everyone can twerk. I can dance, I can't twerk. I'm just saying that.
Anissa can, though. We've seen the videos.
You have not seen no videos of me. You have not seen absolutely no videos. It's a lie.
But can you twerk?
It's neither here nor there. But my point is...
I feel like me and Luanda have gone on some big sharing moments.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay, if you think it's
friend of a guy that I knew, it's your turn.
Okay, do you know what? I will give you a twerk story if it makes you feel better. Somewhere where I twerk, but I should not have been twerking.
I'll give you a twerk and then
Absolutely not. My knees are not feeling strong today, so absolutely not. One thing I just want to say quickly though, Sophie, I definitely agree with you. I think there's some stuff there that he needs to unlearn, but it's just one of those things. It's the weight of black people. It's kind of like we shouldn't say, oh, you shouldn't do that because you're letting down our side. But unfortunately, the way that we have been stereotyped and viewed is if one black person done wrong, then people have stereotyped us. And so then we kind of learned that behavior, like, okay, if he's doing it, then they're going to think we're all like that. So it's just a behavior that I think we just need to unlearn. And I really wish, I'm with Rwanda, that he did not go on that misogynistic rant, because he didn't need to. All he needed to say is, you lot don't have any decorum. Come out of my restaurant. That's all he needed to say. And because for me, it's like, it's a restaurant. Even if, listen, I go to a restaurant called Cotton's in Vauxhall. It's a Caribbean restaurant. Now, when they're playing Spice, This Is How I Like It, I do not go on the table and start losing myself crazy, because it's a restaurant. Now, if it was a bar, or if it was a lounge, or if it was a club, then yes, I would dance, but not at a restaurant. Even if they're playing that kind of music, it's still a restaurant. Like, in my mind, it's like, you wouldn't get up on the table and start twerking in Hakkasan, so why would you do it in this man's restaurant? Like, that's my thought. But let me get onto my twerk story. Now, when I was a younger lass, I was in school. I think I was in year 10, maybe I was in year 10, and I ended up getting excluded over this whole twerking fiasco. Because basically, long story short, right, we had been listening to Britney Spears, me and these girls. They were my friends, but they weren't my main group of friends. But anyway, we were listening to Britney Spears, but we all liked Bashment. So then we thought, you know what, we're going to be the Bashment Britneys. That's what we decided to call ourselves for the day. And so we rolled our tops up like Britney does in Hit Me Baby one more time, and then rolled our skirts up. I don't know what provoked us. We were in the middle.
Her, mate,
exactly.
Pop culture.
We went in the middle of our ICT lesson. We decided to get up on the tables on top of the computers, and we just went out for a full performance. It was a full performance. Now, our teacher had left the room, but we were just giving it. There was about 5 of us. We were giving a full performance, baby. Anyway, he came back in with the assistant head teacher. They were like, oh, we've been watching you on CCTV. You like trying to damage property. You're being inappropriate. Because obviously we went to a Church of England school. So, we had a priest, and we took communion. It was a very strict school. Anyway, long story short, we then ended up getting excluded over the whole fiasco. But it was only for a couple of days, so it was fine. Now, even now, I still don't feel like what I was doing was wrong in my mind, okay? Because a performance is a performance, honey, and if I slayed it, I did that. But I do understand that it was not appropriate in the middle of the IT lesson, and I had to learn that upon reflection. I mean, can you imagine going home to tell your mum, hey, mum, guess what? I got excluded. But you know what? Thank God for my mum, because she was absolutely fine about it. She understands that people are haters, so it was fine. But everybody else's mums were not that understanding. And that was when I learned, guys, there's a time and a place. Even though I'm having a good time and I think it might be appropriate for me to get up and shake, it's not always the time. So there's my sharing.
You guys knew that it was the wrong time to be doing that. And that's why it was giving you thrills, because you were 14 years old. And if you thought it was the right time and place, you would have done it with the teacher in the room. You were just being class clowns. It wasn't like, oh, hey, I thought this was going to be fine. The priest comes in and you were like, no, but you don't like Bashment Britney, dude? Like, I thought you'd be okay with this. You knew it wasn't going to be okay, and that was the thrill. And
I didn't know if it was not going to be okay. We were just having a good time.
Do you know what? School, you waited for the teacher to leave and you were surprised?
I was surprised that they saw us on CCTV. Absolutely, no wonder.
Yeah, because you thought it was off.
I mean, I was surprised by that turn in the story as well. But like on this whole thing with like appropriateness and where's the right time, it really makes me think. Part of me feels like, are we only down on twerking and whining in certain environments because we've been told that things that come from black culture aren't as good as things that come from white European culture? Because it's usually things that have to do with our culture that aren't, fit for somewhere. So let's say we went to like an upscale restaurant and then like some Megan Thee Stallion came on and they were playing it quite low and they were just kind of like, oh, I'm going to twerk. You'd be like, oh, this is really upscale. It's not a good time. But let's say, for example, some Beyonce came on in the same restaurant and Jonathan and I were just like, oh, it's our anniversary, and we got up and we decided to hold each other and to sway and just do a 2-step. People would probably be like, oh, that's so lovely. I doubt they'll be like, get out of here, that's so inappropriate, how dare you? And I think it's because we have been made, not us, but black culture has been demonized so much that things that relate to us as a culture, like I'm not saying that twerking is synonymous, but you see a lot of times within black culture, or whining, or lovers rock dancing, or the Harlem Shake, or whatever it is that you do. I think it's always gonna get a tougher rap than other things. So some of it, I just feel like it's because our culture is demonized.
Yeah, completely.
And because our
think so as well. And that's, say that again.
And because our culture is over sexualized, so
right, I think
takes to another level.
Because the man, what he was saying, he's like, oh, I'm doing this for us. Like, obviously, he's trying to show black people, he even said this himself, like he's trying to show black people, you can own a restaurant, you can do this and you can do that. And it is because we're so lumped together that we feel like everyone represents everyone else. And that's why whenever I speak about privilege and I'm trying to explain it to like a white person, I always try to explain that when you're born with a blank slate. Like people don't have like pre-existing notions of what you're going to be like, but with black people it's almost as if we spend our whole lives trying to distance ourselves from the stereotypes that you had on me before I was even on the earth. And so with something like this, like that's why I found it so misogynistic, because he was saying to the women, how can I expect these men to respect you if you don't respect yourself? But again, like Sophie pointed out, if you were doing the tango, he wouldn't say that you have no self-respect because you're doing the tango. And it's only because of the way that we view the Black culture as degrading, as ratchet, as ghetto. That's why we're saying to these people, you can't be doing that. Like, you're embarrassing me by you doing that, even though you aren't me, you're embarrassing me. And so this is why we need to just kind of like allow all communities of color, all people of color, all highly melanated people to have individualism, because we don't have that right now.
Yeah. And I think as well, especially with what he was saying about, men, how do we expect men to like respect you if you do this? And I'm like, men should just respect us anyway. Yes. Like that sort of link that he's making between what I do should make you respect me. No, like, you should just respect women anyway, and I should just respect men anyway, like, regardless. And I had a real issue with that. And I think in terms of twerking or certain dancers in the Black community being over-sexualized, like, as Luanda was saying, that from the study of Black feminists. Now, I don't know how true it is, but they're saying that twerking is, linked to deities in Brazil and Cuba and things like that. And those are the origins of it, as Luanda touched on earlier. But it wasn't sexual then. And I think it's something else in our culture that has just been very sexualized, because I was talking to a friend about this, and he is from Ghanaian descent. And I went to him, you've seen the old aunties dancing and winding up at the wedding. He was just like, oh my days, literally. Like, you go to my sister-in-law, she went to a wedding of like some church people, and she was like, I saw like the elder winding down in the circle.
Yes,
and I'm
honey.
like, because it's cultural to them. It's not dirty. It's not sexual. It's a cultural thing, and they don't think something badly about it. But when we take it into the West, suddenly me doing a little shakedown, and like suddenly it's kind of like, oh, it's provocative, because we're already told as Black women we're provocative and we just want sex and we're promiscuous. So I think that this needs a lot of tearing down of sexual tropes, of Black tropes needs to happen. And this guy really needs to check himself, because when he's telling people don't wear do-rags, don't wear sag, like, for me, I'm just like, dude, let's just reframe what it means to be Black. It's not those things.
Yes. And when he used the words classy, because he had an interview after this, and he was like, we just need to be classy. And so I'm thinking, what you in your mind, you're actually saying what we need to do is assimilate, because actually who is telling us what is and what isn't classy? You're gauging us and what we are doing against mainstream or against white culture, and that's where you're finding your classy gradient, and you're thinking over here is classy and over here is ratchet. And so you just need to just do a lot of work, bro. Do a lot of work.
Yeah. I mean, I need to do the work as well. We all need to just do the work, and it's very difficult to separate ourselves from something we've been told all the time. But hey, do the work. And ladies, I want to move on to something.
I'm just thinking. Sorry, go ahead. No, move on.
Are you sure?
No, go. That
because
sounded like there was something very interesting there on your mind.
I think the way he's went about it has been completely wrong, and he's focused on the complete wrong point. But I think there are some truths in the situation of, it's okay if you would like a more upscale restaurant, and so, for example, like, you wouldn't want people to come to a restaurant in tracksuits. I'm not saying Black people wear tracksuits, but I'm saying is you wouldn't want whites in tracksuits, you wouldn't want Indians in tracksuits, because your restaurant isn't a restaurant that has I think, like, if you have a business, you can set the parameters in it. But I think where he went wrong is he then basically said all the things that shouldn't be done. He made that attributes of Black people, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm sure if a white woman got up on the table and started twerking, that would have been an issue as well. And I wish he just didn't make it about race, it didn't make it about respecting women, just that I have a business, this isn't my vision for the business, please don't do this. This is what I really wish he would have just said. So that's what
this is exactly why I started my statement with, he needs to pay attention with the environment that he's creating.
Like,
honestly, you're coming up here having groups of people, you want to have like a liquid brunch, you want to be serving me rum shots, and then you want to pay Body by Megan Thee Stallion. What do you think is going to happen?
No, but Luanda, liquor plus Megan Thee Stallion
environment.
But liquor plus Megan Thee Stallion doesn't necessarily create that environment.
Let's not be silly.
No, it doesn't necessarily create that environment. Yes, there's a likelihood it would, but I don't want to say it necessarily does. I just think he handled it wrong. But I'm not gonna lie, if I had a restaurant and I didn't want it to be like a Nando's, I wanted it to be like an Oblix, then I would put certain parameters in place, not for black people, but just for white people, for everyone.
But those parameters also need to be within the environment as well.
Yes,
because,
100%. I agree with that.
I went to eat with my family a couple of months ago, and like we went to an upscale restaurant, and they were like, "Luanda, you can't wear your trainers. Just put on some boots." And I was like, "Oh!" But then I went there, and the whole environment, I would have felt weird if I was wearing my trainers, because you've set it up to make me feel like, okay, this is kind of like, this is not the level that I would turn up to, like rocking jeans and trainers. I need to put on a dress. I need to put on some heels, because you've created that environment. But he is creating a certain environment, like a turn-up club environment with a DJ and with cocktails and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
and then telling people, don't act like you're in a club. But you've made it feel like I'm in one. So that's where I'm saying, if you want a different restaurant, then you need to create a different restaurant.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I get you. Okay, yes.
Do you know what?
Sorry, Sophie, not to interrupt.
No, it's fine, because I was going to say, I don't know. I agree that there's a certain code of behaviour and he would have said something if the people were white. But do I think that he would have told them to get the F out? I don't think he would have done that if it was a bunch of white women. I honestly don't. And I think, again, with the dress code, I agree. But when he's saying about do-rags and sliders, yes, he's talking to everyone, but he's specifically talking to things that are synonymous.
Yes, I don't think he should have made it with black people.
Yeah. So I agree. This topic is juicy, but we need to move on to something a little bit lighter. So a dog who was said to be too happy and lively to be a sniffer dog for the Metropolitan Police has instead become Scotland Yard's very first wellbeing dog. Dexter, the black Labrador, is going to be bringing joy to officers and helping to alleviate work-related stress and trauma. Now, it is well known and proven that interacting with dogs releases the love hormone oxytocin and counteracts the stress hormone. And with everything that's been going on in 2020, it's no surprise to know that dog ownership has skyrocketed, with more people now working from home. Now, we all know that a dog is for life, not just for Christmas. So I wanted to ask you ladies, would you ever consider buying or owning a dog to boost your well-being? And if Scotland Yard can do it, should our employers also be looking to bring in dogs into workplaces or add doggy cuddles to employee well-being packages?
I love this story. I think it's so sweet. I'm so happy for that dog. I'm so happy for the police officers as well. I read in an article that canine companions actually they trigger the same neural pathways as the same parent-baby bond, and that they can be used to reduce like loneliness and depression and things like that. And I think that's just like, I think it's really, really, really sweet. There was an article for a mental health website called Mind, and a guy called Paul, I think his name was, wrote about how getting a dog saved his life. And he said, the love and the responsibility and things like that really helped him, because he was very depressed. And whilst he was in that depressed state, like, it's very common for depressed people to feel useless and to feel unproductive. But for him, having someone who needed you made him feel useful, and having to do something every day, like feed the dog every day and walk the dog every day, means that he was being productive even on his off days. So I think it's a really, really beautiful thing. And in terms of Scotland Yard, I worry all the time about people like, police officers who are in a line of work where they're presumably encountering like psychologically damaging things on a daily basis in a very casual manner, because this is part of your job. Like, I worry about those kind of people's mental health. I worry about your well-being. And so having something like a little dog in the office, if it's going to make you feel better, like a dog that was too friendly to be a sniffer dog, like, that is fantastic. So yeah, I feel like, if it's going to help someone, then go for it. I don't think it needs to be like a new workplace tradition, because it's too much. Like with the Scottish Police Department, they already have to have like the dogs in their line of work. So it's like, we're going to have dogs regardless. So I think in that kind of scenario it works, but we don't need to make it a whole new thing, But in your personal life, if you want to get a new dog, a new puppy at home, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with Amanda. It was definitely a lovely story. Personally, for me, I wouldn't get a dog to like boost my well-being. I'm just not that connected to animals, so it just wouldn't make any sense for me. And so that, for the same reason, is why I'd also vote against it not being in the office or not being in the well-being. I think in the line of work with police officers, okay, it makes sense and stuff like that. I don't know my day-to-day office what it would help me specifically with, but then again, other people have different stresses at work, and who knows, right? I personally am not for office pets. I have always never been for them. And like whenever somebody has to bring in their pet to work because their pet daycare is closed down, I'm always on edge. I'm always at the desk like, oh God, where is the pet? Like, are they letting it run free? I'm always like hyper manic because I'm just thinking, where is this pet? Like, I'm losing it. And it puts me on edge and I just cannot deal. And so for me, just to respect everyone's working environment, it's kind of like, let's just not. I've literally, when I used to apply for jobs and I used to see that they had like an office pet, I would stop applying for that job. It's like, it's not even worth it. I'm not even going to get myself involved because I'm not that into animals and I'm not emotionally connected to them. So they don't do much for me. However, I have a lot of colleagues who do have a lot of animals and their animals are their life. And when their animals have passed, it has rocked their boat horrendously. And it's been actually horrific even to watch as like a friend and be like trying to comfort them through, because I never understood it in the beginning, but now as Luanda, you continue to explain it, kind of like it's like having a baby. It's like grief is the same way. So it was new for me to comfort someone in that kind of grief, and that's when I realized that animals can really be somebody's best friend. So if you really think it's going to boost your well-being, then go ahead, get an animal, but not at a workplace is what I would say.
Guys, I want a dog so badly.
Aww.
I want a dog so badly. Like, just talking about this topic makes me think about the dog that I want to have. And I was never a pet person, like didn't grow up with pets. And then me and my sister were living together some years ago and she said she wanted to get a cat. Now I was completely against it. I'm just like, we're not pet people. Like, that's not us. And then one day I just woke up and like there was a kitten on me. Like it just literally, I was just like, what? And I just bonded with this cat so much. His name was Bam Bam. It's short for Bambi. And like, I just adored this cat. We had such a special bond. I taught him how to give kisses. Like, I honestly I loved him. I'd do anything for him. And like, when he passed away once I'd moved away from living with my sister. And honestly, I was heartbroken. Like, I woke up one night just crying because he went missing. So we just never had the closure of knowing what happened to him. And that was really, really tough. But it just made me feel like there is just something about being close to an animal. Like, just that, I don't know, it's just this warm, fuzzy feeling. And I have been literally wearing down my husband to get an animal. Like, he promised me that we could get an animal when we got married a couple of years ago, and he reneged on that promise. And then he was just like, oh, we're renting, blah, blah. But we just bought our house. So dog talk has been put back on the table. He's given me a few more stipulations, but guys, I'm knocking them down in 2021.
What type of dog do you want?
The thing where like he wakes up and he's got a puppy on his chest. And you're like,
do you know, my marriage might end, Luanda. I'm not going to lie, you know. If I made that, dogs aren't cheap.
He
Like,
promised you.
They're
You
not.
already consented to this
dogs could be
situation.
like £3,000. So if I'm going to take £3,000 out the savings and just wake up with a dog, trust me, he is not going to be happy about it. But like, and the dog that I want is called a Cavapuchon. So it's a cross between a King Charles Cavalier, a Poodle, and a Bichon. And they're just kind of little and they're furry, and they have like these little like teddy bear faces. Like, guys, I'm just so in love already.
Small
like,
or big?
They're small. I don't want too big a dog. And they stay small. They small and they stay small, and they're hypoallergenic. So if you have allergies, it's fine. And they're friendly dogs. They get along with kids. Like, I've done my research. So husbands, you are making good on that promise. If you want children,
she's putting you on blast on the internet.
You better get my dog. That's
Jonathan,
what I'm gonna
make
say.
sure you are listening to Sophie loud and clear. She's talking in bold and underlined and exclamation marks. Okay,
Exactly.
this is for you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I've never really connected with animals. However, I have had several pets in my lifetime, and I think this has also contributed to me not really being an animal person. I had a multitude of fish. I had a hamster. I had a cat, I had a parrot, and then I briefly had a dog. So I've had pets throughout my life, but I've just never been connected to them. So they've just never really been my bag. So now as an adult, I know that I'm definitely not going to have them because it's just not for me. However, my best friend, she has this cat. She's so cute. The cat's called Fendi. Fendi is so cute. I cannot deal. So I get my best friend to send me pictures and videos of Fendi like all the time. So I can look at her and be like, oh, Fendi's so cute. But then when I'm at her house, I cannot be around Fendi because Fendi is just too wild for me. I cannot take it. So I make her put Fendi in another room because I cannot deal. So I like pictures. When I see pictures of cats, it makes me smile. So I understand that warm feeling, but not enough to like want to be around them.
Yeah. I mean, I have a interesting relationship with animals because like I respect them enough not to eat them. However, I don't spend...
That's very true. That's
very true.
And maybe me getting a dog might actually make me start to rethink my, cannibalism.
People never make that connection, like the speciesism. Like the first thing that I was talking about, from my veganism, my vegetarianism, is like the difference between people. Well, do you guys remember Harambe? That
monkey?
I feel like she was an ape, like a big. Yeah, I feel
the
like
gorilla?
she was an ape. Gorilla. Yeah. Do you remember her?
Mm-mm. The one that got shot about the child in the cage?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Harambe got shot, and then everyone on the internet was like up in arms. How could they shoot this massive, majestic animal and blah, blah. It was to save a child, so you know what I mean. But they were like, how could they shoot Harambe and blah, blah, blah. Harambe was trending for 2 weeks. And I was like, all of these people who are crying over Harambe are crying over their cheeseburgers whilst they're, they're eating their cheeseburgers and crying over Harambe. And I'm just like, you don't make the connection that like all animals can feel the same things that your favorite dog that you've, I don't know what people name their dogs, Fluffy. You're in love with Fluffy and you want to cry when Fluffy gets lost or when Fluffy doesn't eat, but you're going to then sit at the table and do you know what I mean? So it's just like, yeah.
So would you get a pet, Luanda?
I don't even know if I should say, but I have a controversial opinion on pets as well, man. I'm scared. Pets. Because the thing is, like, I just believe that animals should have their freedom, and just the idea that you, like, 'cause say, for example, that, like, a dog has a litter of puppies. You would then, you're waiting a couple of weeks for the dog to bond with its mom so they can get the milk from its mother. And then you're then taking this puppy away from its mom for your own personal pleasure. And then you're going to, like, I don't know what they do. They, like, burn the balls so they can't have children. Like, everything's to do with, like, your convenience and what you want instead of, like, the actual animals. So, like, I guess I appreciate people who rescue pets. But the whole idea of domesticated animals, again, it's just another thing that, like, they've been breeded against their will for our personal pleasure and our personal, like, Christmas cards to have, like, a nice fluffy friend next to us. So I'm just like, I don't know.
I'm going to come on to that, but I just want to say I was a cannibal earlier, and I'm not a cannibal. Cannibals eat people. I meant carnivore. I eat meat. I just want to make that very,
None of us
very clear.
even caught that. I didn't even catch that. I'm probably like, yeah, girl, you a cannibal.
Because I was just like, I know someone's going to pick up and like, she's a what? But
oh my gosh.
I think that Luanda makes a very good point, and I would probably say that if you are thinking of getting a pet, make sure that you're going to reputable, registered, licensed people who are breeding, because they will have specific rules around the things that you're talking about, Luanda. So they'll make sure that when they put dogs together, they're not force breeding them. They're making sure that these dogs, the female dogs, aren't breeding consistently throughout the year, just as they would in their natural cycle, and making sure that they have time to bond and they're well adjusted. So if you don't want to own a pet, don't, but make sure if you do, that you're making sure that the animals have been treated as fairly as possible.
But is there a fairly treated in slavery?
Yeah, so
slavery treat us like real
slavery
nice.
feels strong, Luanda.
I think for domesticated pets, I think it is slightly different to like animals in the wild, so that people who breed tigers in spaces that are like no bigger than like a house full pan, because domesticated animals, like, they're going to breed anyway. If we decided to leave them to just run wild and to be free, the world would be unkept with dogs, cats, this, that and others. So there does need to, in my opinion, be some sort of intervention to to make sure that that's not happening, and making sure that you're not stressing out the dogs as well by letting them breed consistently, because on breeding farms that's what people do, or they make sure that the dogs are confined more than they should be. So that's why I'm saying, if you're gonna do it, there are better and safer ways to make sure that the pets are treated fairly.
I hear what you're saying. It's just like better still isn't their own life.
But
it's
what
still
would,
like,
no,
But we don't know if the dogs want to be in the
Miranda,
streets.
like, what would happen to the dogs if we just said we're going to let them run free and live their life freely? That's what I'm saying.
But why are we looking at two extremist ideas? Because I think whenever like someone kind of brings up this topic, like if someone says, "Oh, I'm vegan," but like, but what if you were on a desert island and you only had to kill a chicken to eat? And we're like, why are we talking about this? Is that relevant?
No, what I'm saying. So what's okay? So
I think there's two. I think there's two types
it.
of. I think there's two types of animals though. Ones that like naturally live in the wild that we take out of their habitat and cage up and put them in zoos and do all the cis boom bar stuff too. And then I think there's the other kind of animals who are either domesticated or to roam free. I don't know, like if the cats and dogs came from the wild.
I know,
they did, and we made those. We probably like. Do you know what I mean? Like their descendants, their cousins and stuff are like the feline. Like
that's
cats.
true, but I'm like, what's the middle ground? So you're saying the middle ground isn't to have like fair, but.
I'm saying the middle ground, okay, you can rescue pets. Rescue pets if you want to take care of pets. Like I'm not saying that people who have pets aren't taking care of them. Obviously there are people who abuse animals and that's just like a whole different scenario. But I mean like that we have literally breeded these animals to be domesticated for us, because domesticated animals don't actually exist. This is something that us humans have created. There aren't two types of animals. There's only two types because we've made two types.
Okay, Luanda, yes. But it's like when we talked about porn on last week's episode and this idea of we're never going to get porn back in the box. Like, as much as we might say in the West, like it might not be healthy or this or that, we've let it out. It's out. It's now about how do we regulate. So I'm saying, is there a plan that you have to say, what do we do now that we've let breeding out? We've let out domesticated pets, agreed. Like cats come down from tigers, come down from lions, I'm sure. But how do we now regulate this in a fair way? Because domesticated pets aren't going anywhere.
Well, I mean, that's our choice for them to not go anywhere. Like if they're here, we're keeping them here. If you're saying they're not going anywhere, it's because we're not letting them. And when you're talking
about them in the home than in the streets. I'm not
gonna lie. Talking
lie.
about like dogs that are like, oh, it's a mixture of this, and that. It's because these animals have been put together to like forcibly breed so that we can have this pretty little puppy in our bloody Chanel bags and walk down the street. Like, do you know what I mean?
But do you know what? I don't know if you've ever been to Nepal. I've been to Nepal and dogs roam free there. Like literally, like dogs are everywhere. And it doesn't make the dogs any happier or whatever because there is no one to look after them. They get into dog fights. Like they're literally preyed upon because there are no regulations and they're let to roam free. So I'm just saying, I don't think we have the time now, but I would want to know like what would be a constructive plan to make sure that they're able to have freedom, because for someone who's going to love and care for this animal and give them the best life that they have, are we saying that we should be doing the opposite and just letting them roam free on the streets? Because I'm not sure if that would make people any happier.
Please, no more on the streets.
That's what I mean by like, why are we talking about extremes? Again, it's like, why in your mind is the only two options us taking these animals in versus us having cats, dogs, wild everywhere.
It's not. But I'm asking you.
But Sophie's asking, what's the medium? Sophie's asking, what's the medium?
Yeah. So then I'm saying to you guys, if there are animals that need to be taken care of, need to be rescued, then rescue them. Cool. I think even people, like a lot of my vegan friends who want pets, and I'm not opposed to pets 100%. It's just the idea of taking these animals away from their parents and having them for your own personal pleasure, and then like burning their genitalia so that they can't breed anymore because it's not convenient to you to have another litter of cats. Like this kind of thing is kind of like, I think it's so normalized that we don't see how cruel it is, to be honest.
It's tough. I mean, I don't want anything else in the streets. The squirrels and the pigeons are enough. So really, honestly.
Well, we could talk about the logistics of domesticated pets freedom for another 15 minutes, but unfortunately we've come to the end of another episode of Ethnically Speaking. Thank you for watching and listening. If you would like to see even more from us, make sure you hit the link in the description to have exclusive access to our new segment, Extra Ethnic, but only if you sign up to our mailing list. And let's keep the conversation going. Would you get a dog to help with your emotional well-being? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss a thing. For a summary of everything that we've spoken about today, head on over to unitedmelaningroup.com/ES026. And until then, we will see you same time, same place next week. Stay safe, wash your hands, and keep your distance.